Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and this is Meet Your Emmy Nominee, and I'm here with Common.
How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm excellent.
Thank you so much for coming by today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Your nomination, Outstanding Original Music and Lyrics for Letters to the Free.
Yeah, Letter to the Free.
For 13th.
Yeah, it's a supreme honor to be nominated for an Emmy for Letter to the Free, and to be a part of the film 13th, because I watched that film have impact throughout Hollywood, but also throughout schools and in people's homes. People responded to the film, and it was an eye-opener to part of American history and what we're dealing with right now. So many times we think, oh, we're past that stage, we're past that, but mass incarceration and just it being conceptually like similar to slavery was an eye-opener for many people. And
yeah, it was to me personally, like just the way that it kind of was knitted all together in the first 5 minutes of the film was very...
for me, it was Ava DuVernay did an incredible job at just making you, allowing you to understand and not forcing it on you, but also having you take some responsibility in what do you want to do next. And that's what it did for me. Like, her work does that, but my story to get to 13th is something, because it started with John Legend when us winning the Academy Award, and he said something in his speech about how there are more black men in prisons right now than there were enslaved in 1850. And I was like, wow, I didn't know that fact. And then from there, I read this book called The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I was actually working on a documentary piece dealing with mass incarceration, and just started getting more information. So when I found out Ava was doing a film about it, I was like, Ava, can I please write something for this film? And she was like, well, submit something, like, we'll see. And I caught her at the White House. The president was having a birthday party about a year ago. And I had enough wine that I was like, look, I'm about to say some of it, because I started writing it as soon as she said, look, just submit something.
So
I had enough wine to just rap some of it in her ear, and she was like, yeah, I like that, that's pretty good. And then she went over and started talking to the president, so I couldn't usurp the president, but the song made it to the film, and I'm very grateful that Letter to the Free made it to 13.
That's wonderful. It's a true testament to the song that she was able to kind of ignore the president for a second.
Good 20 seconds. But, and once we created the song, with all the pieces from the trumpet, Roy Hargrove, and flute to us just doing the claps, I felt like it captured the spirit of what 13th is and what that struggle is that we're dealing with in America. So when I sent it to Ava and I got that text that said, give me a call back when you can, your heart is beating like, does she like the song or does she not like it? And I got that. She said, yo, this song is great. Like, this song is really captures the energy. It actually made her change the ending of the film, because she said the song Letter to the Free made her feel like hopeful and more like the fight we've been through, but it's we can win this fight, and it's hopeful. So she decided at the end of 13th, because of Letter to the Free, to use all these family photos, just depicting the humanity of black people.
Yeah, that's wonderful. The song does remind me of, it's kind of the song is driving, like a heartbeat or like a machine, and that's the way Ava also kind of directs it, as like the suspense is mounting. As time goes on, you see like the unstoppable machine that incarceration has become in the country.
It is a machine. Obviously, mass incarceration is a machine and a big business. And the one thing that I really love about getting to create like A Letter to the Free was I started to learn more. I read and I seen 13th, but this was like almost researching a role for me, because I wanted to study more before I wrote the song. and also make the song still have that charge and have the energy, because you don't want it to be, music and film still has to be like appealing to the palate. It still has to be like something that we want to watch, compelling. So once we put all those elements, that charge you're talking about was just us stomping on the ground and clapping our hands. And we had like one of the producers, Kareem Riggins, his son, his like 8-year-old son was in there clapping with us. It just felt like, man, we're depicting history, and hopefully we're being a part of history by creating Letter to the Free and being a part of 13th.
Yeah, you're showing the unstoppable power of a movement that can counteract the unstoppable power of the machine.
Yes, and I have to say the more and more I started creating music that is conscious. I've been creating music that has social relevance for a while.
Yeah.
It was right during the Selma, the time we were part of Selma, the film, and Glory, that I really was like, oh, I have to take it to the next level and be part of the activism. I was doing things, like I have my foundation, Common Ground Foundation in Chicago, and I participated with supporting education for youth and helping them reach their dreams. But I was like, if I'm gonna write a song about mass incarceration, then I need to see what I can do to change it. And we lately have recently been a part of a Hope and Redemption tour. So I visited some California state prisons and just listened to a lot of individuals that were incarcerated, just to get in touch with them and see how we can improve their situations and make sure that we do our best to make this correctional system, the prison system, serve its true purpose, that what it's supposed to serve is to rehabilitate and improve people's lives, and it hasn't been doing that. And so we, being a part of these things has catapulted me to doing the work more, and like looking at policy change. Like we're doing a performance in Sacramento on August 21st to help support certain bills that are dealing with no more life without parole for juveniles and for young adults. We're the only country in the world that has life without parole. And scientists have studied brains and development and said, we're not fully developed until we're like between the ages of 23 and 25. So if a teenager commits an act, even a violent act, they should be given some type of chance to redeem themselves. And that's what I was able to find out by going to these prisons. I met a lot of people who were in a state of redemption, like were in a state of forgiveness, or a state of like looking for redemption in a way that like, look, I've changed, I've grown, I have a light within me that I didn't have. And it really touched me, because a lot of the individuals I met, I remember one specifically said, Common, imagine if you committed an act and you were trapped in that act for the rest of your life. Yeah. And I thought about all the moments I was hanging with my friends in high school, and it could be a fight that eventually can send somebody to prison, and they could become part of a system that really is not benefiting America. It's benefiting a portion of people who are invested in prisons, and it's a business for them. But when you think about how it's destroying so many families and people of color, our country will never see the happiness and the freedom that we want if we don't like treat everybody with some equality, or try to redeem those who have been through situations that we may not have been through, or and we don't look at others and be like, oh, they done. We just write them off. Yeah.
One of the problems with incarcerated juveniles is the amount of time that they spend in solitary confinement, which is defined as torture now because of what it does to their brains. And that's the reason why, one of the reasons why Rikers Island is going to close.
Yeah. I was part of something at the White House dealing with prison reform, and Valerie Jarrett, this was during the White House when President Obama was in, and I tried on some of those virtual reality, the whatever you call it, the virtual reality lenses or whatever, and
Oculuses.
Yeah, and it was like a simulated prison cell, and I have to say it was like I was like, man, this is hard for any human being.
Yeah.
And then eventually 3 months later, I walked into these prison cells when I went to the California state prisons, and was like, man, it's hard for a human being to exist like this. Like, especially when, you know, like, they not getting treated as human beings.
Yeah.
It's like, so, yeah, I think that solitary confinement and those things, like, we got to work on that. Bail reform is something that we're also in support of, because some people go to jail just because they don't have money. And it's simple, just because they don't have the money to pay. And it's like they end up being part of a system. I mean, you've seen the Khalif Browder story. If you haven't, I mean, it's many people, not, you know, God bless his soul, that have been put in a jail system just for minor offenses and just don't have the money. So I think, you know, us people who are participating in Hollywood and just people, Americans, like when we look at things we can do to improve our country, we gotta look at the people that are being overlooked, the people that are being looked down upon. We gotta look at the people that people consider the lowest of the society, and treat them humane, because then it just goes from the bottom up. Like when they come back into society or even have an opportunity to, you know, they bring better things to this world. Like, and I've witnessed it firsthand, just talking to the individuals I saw in prison. I was like, I left every day feeling like I was more awake than I was more awakened than I had ever been, like, in these conversations.
That shows real authenticity when you can treat everybody the same, no matter what you want from them or what you think they want from you.
Yeah.
Treating everyone the same is authenticity.
That's all. Like, I always look at, when I'm working with directors, I look at how they treat the whole crew. When I'm out on a date with a girl, I'm seeing how she treat the waiter.
Yeah.
All that, it's like, come on, like anybody could treat a star good or a rich person, you know, but how you gonna treat the homeless guy, or, you know, like I said, the waiter, the bell woman or bellman, you know, and people you work with that honestly just might get on your nerves sometimes.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you gotta like work on that too. I mean, we all working on it, but I think it's important what you say. Authenticity is truly in how you treat, from the person that's considered the lowest to the highest.
For the documentary 13th, it opens with President Obama speaking, and it closes with your song.
Yeah.
And it seems very representational of a cultural shift that happened in the past decade.
Yeah.
But because of the election, there's been another cultural shift. Do you feel that? Do you think that, are we seeing a cultural shift? Are we seeing a backlash? Are we seeing just a regular presidential turnover?
No, I don't think that is really regular, to be honest. What we see going on with the White House now is, I think some of it is the backlash of people just being upset at having a black president is part of it. This blatantly is having a black president. But then some people probably felt that more should have been done, you know, by the Democrats. And it's just, you know, and I can't act like I came with this concept, but it's just it's a concept that I was reading about just recently that made a lot of sense. It was talking about white resentment, and it's a resentment in certain parts and from certain people towards people of color, you know, just in fear of like, yo, if we let the Latino brothers and sisters in, and we're not gonna have this. Or if black people get to this level, then we're not gonna have this. Or, you know, if Muslims, like, it's just a fear. And I think, you know, that fear has been fed by the government that's in now. And so a lot of the individuals that are in support of that, some of them are just naturally just feeding into the fear. Some of them just don't know and haven't been exposed. And then some are bigots and, have a racist thought process. But I don't think, I believe what President Obama did is not being like reversed in a way that, I know some of the policies and things that they're doing is trying to reverse, but I also think President Obama brought in a mentality of oneness. And I don't think everybody that supported that is still thinking that. And now we're figuring out ways to up that. How can we do it, especially in the face of all this opposition, in the face of somebody trying to separate us. We just saw what it's like, what the goodness is. We saw someone who really kind of cared for all people, and like it felt inclusive. We all felt part of America. So I don't think the people that have become woke by that, or awakened by that, I don't think we've went backwards. And I think that the people that have risen up to say, man, we want the old America, they've been there, and they just came to the surface like some type of, I don't know, a virus or some disease or something. And you got to deal with that. You got to heal it, And I don't think the healing is always, like the fight is not always in like saying, oh, you ain't nothing, like just the ignorant fight. It's got to be the fight of what we're doing, like saying, okay, you keep acting ignorant. We're about to correct this. We're about to correct the prison system on our own by teaching people what is going on with our prison system. Oh, we're going to go educate people. Oh, the Muslims and Jews are going to pray together. Now, you can't stop that. What you going to do about that? Like, some things the government can't stop, and that's the people's mentality. So I feel like that's where we went. And then we got to work on, that's why I'm sitting up here saying, doing Letter to the Free got me going like, okay, what can I do to change policies? Because it's the only way I can combat some of the ignorance that's going on in the White House and the government is to start doing something. So now we do it on the state and local level and be prepared with federal things and do it on a community grassroots level. Yeah.
I know you were inspired to become, extraordinarily active politically in your last recent with Selma and 13th. But was that always kind of a career goal you had? I know that you've always been politically active, but you've also had this tremendous music career, television career. But was it always your goal?
Well, Mariah, I have to say that, like, I can't say I was really political growing up. I was, like, socially conscious. Like, I would look at situations and see if people were not being served right, meaning not having the right education. And it started with specifically me having friends who didn't have parents around. Some parents were dealing with drugs, some parents, they had lost their parents. And I felt like, man, these people are not getting some of the proper things that a person should get at home, and these are my friends. So my desire to help people who didn't have just started from there. And, as I became a musician, I saw how powerful the music could be. As far as, like, I would have people coming up to me, like, saying, Common, this song made me feel this way, or it made me have a decision to not have an abortion and actually have my child. Or I had, like, on another state, it was like I had, two, like, gay gentlemen come up to me and say, hey, Common, when you use this word, it offends us, and we love you. So, so you grow from that, and you realize how much power that you have with music and with art and filmmaking and television, just the arts itself. So you say, I got to do something with it. And my thing, I honestly I never supported a politician until President Obama. Like, really, to be honest. I mean, I would speak, I voted before, because I felt like that was my duty. But just actually supporting, and that was honestly just because of me seeing him evolve. Even, being from Chicago, I saw some of his evolution and I had a chance to connect, and I believed them. I use my own discernment. I look when I see politicians talking. But beyond the politics, I was always like, my music, I want to put music out. And now I can be a part of film and television that really has an impact on people's lives in a positive way. So that's really what the biggest thing is, more than just political. I became more political when I did become a part of Selma. It was like, okay, you're doing things on some grassroots levels, and you have these foundations, and you're speaking to the people through music. But with policy, because I feel like if people go announce me as an activist, then I got to be changing some policies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like when I look at the activists that I respect, they were changing things. Like they got direct things with their names attached to it, the laws that they help shift.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I have a few questions before I let you go. We have this kind of rapid fire questions. First, best, last, worst. So I will ask you, first cause that you were motivated to speak out for.
To speak out for the first black mayor in Chicago. His name was Harold Washington. I was like 12 years old, so that was the first cause. Just to see him get in office was a big victory.
Nice. Best common sense advice you have to give.
Best common sense advice was the advice my mother used to tell me before I chose the name Common Sense, which was my original rap name, was use common sense. Because I used to do like little crazy things and weird things, and she was like, use common sense.
Nice. Who was the last person you wrote a song for?
The last person I wrote a song for was the people that I wrote Letter to Free for. It's like, Letter to Free is about all those people that are incarcerated and have dealt with mass incarceration, the families that have been affected by it. So I wrote that song for not just one person, but for a people and a nation.
Wonderful. Worst performance mishap on stage?
My worst performance mishap was probably just a slip. We had these water guns on stage, and I was showing out, and then somehow my feet fell from up under me or slipped from under me. I just took a hard fall back. That might have been the worst. I mean, I've had some instances where I invite girls on stage and they've been really drunk, but that wasn't my fault. I try to keep that in order, but yeah, mine was just a fall.
Well, the last question I have before I let you go, I could talk to you all day.
Thank you.
Are you going for your EGOT?
Yes. Yes, and I would be grateful to, I'm gonna strive for it and just keep trying to put art out there that is meaningful and that can touch people's lives. And if the EGOT comes on that path, thank God.
Well, Common, thank you so much for being here. The movie is 13th.
Yes.
We will see you on Emmy's night, and you can see 13th on Netflix.
Yeah, and the song is Letter to the Free.
Letter to the Free.